Elden Ring did not quietly enter the gaming world. It arrived and immediately made people stop and ask questions. Not just about how good it was, but about why it felt so different from everything else around it. At first glance, it looked like another big fantasy game with monsters, magic, and a massive open world. But the more people played it, the more they realized something important was happening. Elden Ring was not just entertaining players, it was changing how they thought about games, how they explored worlds, and how much guidance they actually needed. Many games before it were successful, polished, and fun. But Elden Ring felt bold in a way that modern gaming had almost forgotten. For years, the gaming industry had been moving towards safety. Open-world games grew larger, but also more controlled. Maps became filled with icons telling players exactly where to go, objectives updated constantly, tutorials explained every system before players had a chance to discover them. Fast travel was everywhere. Death became a minor inconvenience instead of a meaningful moment. This design made games accessible and smooth, but it also removed tension, mystery, and surprise. Exploration often felt like following instructions rather than going on an adventure. Players rarely got lost, and because of that, they rarely felt truly found. During this time, fromsoftware stood apart. The studio became known for making games that did not explain themselves clearly. Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne trusted players to learn by failing. These games were challenging, sometimes harsh, but deeply rewarding. They respected patience and observation. Still, these games were not truly open worlds. They were carefully designed paths with branching routes, shortcuts, and secrets. Many people believed that this design philosophy could not work in a massive open world format. The assumption was simple: players would get frustrated, confused, or bored without constant direction. When Elden Ring was announced, it immediately challenged that assumption. An open-world game directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki with world-building support from George R.R. Martin sounded ambitious and risky. Some players were excited, others were skeptical. Would it lose the tight design that made Souls games special? Would it become another generic open world filled with repetitive tasks? Or would it be too difficult for most players to enjoy? These questions followed Elden Ring right up until its release. When players finally began their journey in the lands between, the game wasted no time showing what kind of experience it wanted to be. After a short introduction, players were placed into a vast open field with almost no instructions. There were no long tutorials, no clear path telling you where to go next. You were simply there, free to move in any direction. And very quickly, many players encountered something far stronger than they were ready for. The game did not warn them, it did not block the path, it allowed them to fail. This moment became one of the most important statements Elden Ring ever made. The world does not exist for you. You exist within it. You are not special yet. You must earn your place. Instead of holding the player's hand, Elden Ring stepped back and trusted them to learn. Some players died within minutes. Others turned around and explored elsewhere. Either way, the lesson was clear. Pay attention. Observe. Choose your battles. This design choice changed how exploration felt. Instead of following icons, players followed curiosity. A strange rumen in the distance, a glowing object near a cliff, a path that looked slightly different from the rest. Discoveries felt personal because they were not guaranteed. You could miss entire areas and never know they existed, and somehow that made the world feel more real. In real life, you do not see everything. You find what you look for. Elden Ring also changed how difficulty worked in open-world games. There were no recommended levels, no warnings saying an area was too dangerous. Difficulty was communicated through experience. Enemy damage, movement, and aggression told you what you needed to know. If something felt impossible, the game was quietly telling you to leave and come back later. This turned difficulty into a natural system rather than a menu option. Players were not locked out of progress, they were given choices. This approach made failure feel different. Dying was still punishing, but it was no longer the end of progress. If you failed in one place, you could succeed somewhere else. This flexibility reduced frustration without removing challenge. Players learned that failure was information. Each death taught timing, positioning, or preparation. Over time, players grew not just stronger in stats, but smarter in how they approached the world. Combat remained true to FromSoftware's roots. Every attack mattered. Stamina had to be managed carefully. Enemies punished careless behavior. But the open world added new layers. Mounted combat allowed faster movement and hit-and-run tactics. Stealth became more meaningful. Avoidance was sometimes smarter than confrontation. Spirit Ashes allowed solo players to summon help in certain areas, giving them support without removing difficulty entirely. These systems did not make the game easy, they made it adaptable. One of Elden Ring's most impressive achievements was how it balanced freedom with structure. The world was massive, but not empty. Every region had a distinct feel, enemy behavior, and visual identity. As players explored, they slowly understood how areas connected to each other. Verticality played a huge role. Underground regions, hidden elevators, and secret paths created moments of surprise that few open-world games delivered. You could spend hours in one area and still discover something entirely new beneath it. Storytelling followed the same philosophy of trust. Elden Ring did not explain its story in long cutscenes. Instead, it scattered pieces of information across item descriptions, environment details, and short conversations. At first, the story felt unclear. Names were mentioned without explanation, events were hinted at but never fully shown. But as players progressed, patterns emerged. The world began to make sense in fragments. Players were not told the story, they uncovered it. This style of storytelling turned players into investigators. They paid attention to details. They shared theories online. They debated meanings and timelines. Elden Ring did not demand this level of engagement, but it rewarded it. Players who ignored the story could still enjoy the game. Players who dug deeper found a rich, tragic history beneath the surface. This dual approach made the game accessible without being shallow. Boss design reflected this flexibility. Elden Ring included more bosses than any previous FromSoftware game. Some were major story encounters, others were optional challenges hidden across the world. Not every boss was meant to stop the player. Some were lessons, some were warnings, some were rewards for exploration. This changed how players viewed boss fights. Instead of feeling blocked, they felt informed. If a boss was too strong, it was okay to leave. This design choice sparked debate at first. Some players felt that repeated bosses reduced impact. Others argued that optional bosses added freedom. Over time, it became clear that Elden Ring was redefining what bosses meant in an open world. They were no longer just gates, they were part of the landscape. Build variety played a huge role in Elden Ring's success. Players could approach the game in countless ways. Heavy melee fighters, spellcasters, hybrid builds, stealth-focused characters, and more all felt viable. Respec options allowed experimentation without permanent punishment. This encouraged creativity. Players were free to try, fail, and adapt. This freedom made the game welcoming without lowering its standards. Multiplayer systems quietly strengthened the experience. Messages left by other players warned of danger, offered hints, or sometimes misled. Summoning allowed players to share difficult moments. Invasions added tension and unpredictability. These systems created a sense of shared struggle. Even when playing alone, players felt part of something larger. The world felt lived in, shaped by countless other journeys. The community that formed around Elden Ring became one of its greatest strengths. Players created guides, maps, lore explanations, and challenge runs. Social media filled with surprising encounters and creative solutions. Instead of consuming content passively, players contributed to the game's legacy. This level of engagement extended the game's life far beyond its release. Behind everything was a clear creative vision. Hidetaka Miyazaki has often spoken about his interest in worlds that feel old, broken, and full of unanswered questions. Elden Ring reflected that vision perfectly. The lands between felt like a place shaped by history and loss. Victories were often bittersweet. Characters were rarely purely good or evil. This emotional tone set Elden Ring apart from power fantasy-driven games. George R.R. Martin's influence shaped the foundation of the world. The themes of fractured families, inherited power, and repeating cycles of conflict were deeply present. FromSoftware built on this foundation with their own storytelling style, creating a world that felt ancient and heavy. Even players who never fully understood the lore could feel its weight. At launch, Elden Ring wasn't perfect. Performance issues existed. Some players struggled with balance. Accessibility debates surfaced. But instead of ignoring these concerns, the conversation around them grew